What's going on, Facebook? What's going on? What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to a special broadcast of World Kidney News. I am your host, Steve Belcher. Thanks for joining. Look, share this broadcast. This is going to be a great show tonight. We're going in a slightly different direction, but this is a show that you definitely want to look at. Boy, I was worried. I had to pull out some other information because I didn't see my guest, but she's here and I'm happy to have her. So a little bit about my guest. Let me just read you her bio. Very impressive. Our guest, Tori Rose, is running for District 7 City Council. Tori began her career in the federal government over a decade ago, working in the disability arena where she represented underserved populations of disabled Americans. For years, she served as an instructor, a mentor, and a technical expert, helping to amend and create policies that would allow for disabled Americans to receive their benefits timely and accurately. Miss Rose is an entrepreneur and small business owner. Her businesses have a central focus on making a difference in the community, strengthening entrepreneurs, and empowering others by providing them with a financial education, applicable training practices, and the necessary life skills needed to succeed. Mrs. Rose's focus has always been on helping others. In 2018, after the tragic murder of one of her young cousins, Mrs. Rose founded We Read, We Lead, a not-for-profit organization that empowers adults through literacy, life skills, and employment support. We Read, We Lead provides a no-cost opportunity for adults in Baltimore City to regain their rightful leadership position in their families and in their communities, thus decreasing the number of adults living under their potential and resorting to a life of crime and violence. Tori Rose is an educator and loves teaching youth and young adults. Miss Rose is currently running for District 7 council seat, where she is confident that God is leading her to be the change the city of Baltimore needs in leadership. Without further ado, let me bring her on, Tori Rose. Hey, what's going on, Tori? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can do something. All right. Tori's just experiencing some problems, but we're going to have her right back. But this is impressive repertoire. Please share this post. Share this post, guys. We need 50 people in this broadcast. Look, share with your family, your friends. Let's raise awareness. All right, we got Tori back. Without further ado, the lovely. Hey, Tori.
All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Absolutely.
me? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So I was adding to the long bio, the mother of an 11-year-old. And so for those of us.
That's right. You're a mother as well.
With these small children. at the last minute, any little thing can happen. So I do apologize for the delay, but I am just
Sure.
so honored today.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I was a little worried, but God is in control, so that's all that
Yes,
matters.
not even the corona can keep me from you. So you are a trusted friend, a dear friend, and I definitely just want
Thank
to
you,
make
Tori.
it.
Thank you.
You're
And honestly, before we start, I just have to tell you, thank you for coming on because you know I met you through Facebook, and I guess it was last year, maybe a year.
almost 2 years ago. Hmm.
Yes, but I would have never imagined just seeing your face on Facebook and everything that you was connected with that I would actually have a chance to interview me. I mean, to interview you because you interviewed me on your show,
Yes.
and so I thank you for taking the time and coming on.
Oh no, I mean, listen, that's what community is about. You and I both bring something very unique to the earth. And it's a blessing when you can have people of like minds and like spirits and their paths cross. And so that's what happens. And so too frequently we meet people who are in similar lanes. And as leaders, people can feel intimidated and all of these different things instead of understanding like we met at an intersection. You have your lane, I have mine. And every now and then we'll come back together in these intersections. And it's in those moments that we get to refuel one another and recharge one another and, be an extension of one another. So no, I'm just honored
Absolutely.
to be here. Thank you.
Wow. So, Tori, as I was reading your impressive bio, uh, your career began in the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you actually represent the underserved population of disabled Americans when you worked for
Yeah.
the federal government?
So I started who normally goes into started like everybody else who normally goes into the federal government, especially if you go into one of the branches that's here in Baltimore. And so for me, I started as a claims person doing benefit work, going into like the casework, the actual weeds of what qualifies a person to be considered disabled and what is a waiting period and what's the attorney's period and just really like the technical work of it. And the more I got to understand how payments were processed and that people were dying waiting on their benefits or people were dying waiting on their payments, it helped me again see myself as an asset to the organization. So, what am I good at doing? I'm good at connecting people. I'm good at like connecting resources, but I'm also good at cleaning things up. And so
Mm-hmm.
I started then digging deep into the policy side and saying, well, wait a minute, at the time in the federal government, especially in payments and some of the like SSA and the Veterans Affairs and CMS and dealing with like end stage renal cases, we saw that the organizations were not talking to one another. And so again, I'm talking, 10, 15 years ago, you could have an earnings record with SSA, benefit record with the VA. You could be waiting on dialysis. That was a different code at CMS. And so myself and some other, newer employees started questioning the system. And the more we started questioning, the more we started digging out policy that was ineffective. And so we had the opportunity to create cadres that allowed us to go and advocate and change policy for, people who were sitting in whatever pocket they were sitting in. And
Mm-hmm.
so that work became very passionate to me because what I started doing was while I was lobbying for the rights of everyday people, for them to get their benefits, for them to be in a position where you don't have to go to six different organizations. If IRS and CMS and SSA and all these people need my information, why can't it go into one centralized place? And then there'd be data sharing across the organizations. But then I also got the opportunity to come back into the environment and teach and train other people. And so I was one of about 30 instructors who were mass duplicating ourselves. And so what that did was that built us deep and wide. And so you
Mm.
start to see people who you're training this technician, you're training this technician, you're teaching them what to look for. The notes, the interactions between organizations become stronger. And then of course, I got promoted, throughout the ranks. And so I wasn't firsthand. At one point, I was behind the scenes. But whenever I could get in front
Mm-hmm.
of the people, get back on the phone, get back in front of a claimant, get on a legislative phone to Washington, because we had a congressional unit, that I was in leadership in that unit. And so that means all of the cases that came through were people who had gone to the congressional level saying that, hey, I have a disability, I have a challenge, and I'm being disenfranchised by my state. And now I'm taking it to a federal level. I was a leader in the organization that managed all of those cases. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing when you look back over your life, like how every little bit adds to the greater picture.
Sure. Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot of patients on disability
Hmm.
and dealt with that population, and there's a lot.
Yeah, it's more than we even understand.
Mm. Now, Tori, how did you actually become involved in politics?
So that's
How did
funny.
you come from working for the federal government to getting into politics?
I'm gonna drink my water while we on. Look, you're not paying me for this.
Sure.
Mm. So believe it or not, well, my undergraduate degree is in history and government political science.
Okay.
And so I've always been a person who likes to analyze. I've always been a person that says, no, that doesn't sound right, and that desire to understand more about the framing and the footwork and footprints of this country led me to study history, right? But then understanding like there is truly a science to who makes the decisions and who leaves who out, that led me to political science. If I could go back 4 years before I went to college, I was at Western High School, and I had an American government teacher named Mr. Norwood. And Mr. Norwood was one of the most abrasive people, but every challenge he gave out, I jumped on. And so he would say, "Oh, you're going to be nothing." What? Oh, okay. Or you know nothing. What? You can't tell a
Mm.
young girl from West Baltimore she knows nothing and she's going to be nothing. You get the right one, she's going to turn into a Tory. And so my desire was to learn more about his subject than he knew about. So he was a government teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I have the honor of being a teacher myself. I've career changed. And when I first entered into the public school system about a year ago, within the last year, I was like, what am I teaching? And they were like, of course, you're going to teach in your degree. You're teaching history and government. I was like, ah! Somebody called Mr. Norwood, just having an opportunity. But
Right.
so I always had a passion. I always was the family attorney. Even when my son's father and I were together, before we separated and all of that, he would say if he ever hit the lottery, he would pay for me to go to law school. He said because you have such a logical way of looking at life, and so I just I just feel like every piece has added to that. But the foundation was there because I've had a love for government and books and history since I was a child, and I got a
Hmm.
degree in it, so it makes sense.
Absolutely. So, do you feel that your district is being unrepresented?
Oh yeah, unrepresented, underrepresented, misrepresented. Um, and it's hard because I'm sure I could have a few neighbors in pockets of our district who would hear me say that and say, "What? Like we're living just fine." And so the reality is we have this very dynamic, very unique dynamic of a makeup where I have predominantly white areas in District 7. People don't look at that and say, well, you have Hampton and you have Dermore Homes. And those are in the same district represented by the same person. And so if you don't have a person with the right level of emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, leadership, you'll have someone who's just talking to one group of people. But you have to have the representation for all of your neighbors. And I do not see that. I do not see that. I see such poverty and disease and illness falling in certain parts of the 21217, that when you go even on the other side of BCCC, Ashburton and Hanlon, which have their own unique dynamics, but you see neighbors there 85 and walking their dogs, and these are predominantly Black and brown neighbors. Again, different representation depending on what corner of the district the leadership wants to focus on. And we just can't have that. We have to have equity, and we have to have equality, and we have to have it consistently, or we will not have an increased quality of life.
Sure. Now, the person, I had to call your names, but the person that you're running against, he's been in that position for a minute, right?
No, not
For
actually. He was just one term. And so it's unfortunate because most people, if you survey 100 people, you'll maybe get about 15 who actively know who their council person is. And the council here in Baltimore moves Baltimore legislatively. And so these are the people who make the laws for the city. Why don't you know who they are? So it's
hmm
almost like having someone in payroll or someone in HR that makes the decisions for where you live and the quality of how you live or how you work, if the trash on your row of cubicles is picked up or not, if they are, selling snacks outside. There's a person that should be advocating for you. Too frequently, we don't have any relationship with them. And so I will tell the world, because there's no animosity between he and I. Leon Pinkett is the current council person. He is only serving one term. He's looking to run for a different position. And so every 4 years in my district, if the people start and stop, we don't see consistent leadership, and we don't see consistent policies going from, thought to measurement to, revamp. We just see thought, possible bill, and the new leadership. And so every four
sure.
years, we've been getting someone new for the last three cycles. And it has to stop. You
Now,
have to have someone who wants to stay.
right now, you said Mr. Pinkett is
Hmm.
searching or going for another position. So does that leave you the only candidate, or is it
Oh,
other people running for District 7?
when life made sense. When life made sense. So I was the only person, Mr. Pinkett, when he was the active council person seeking to reclaim his seat. So he's the incumbent looking to be reelected. I was the only person. And so we're talking about 10 months, 11 months easily, or longer. But I made the announcement, and then I waited until I retired myself from the federal government and all of that to file. And so if you go from the time that I first told Leon I was going to run against him to the time when someone else jumped in, I was the only person for 13 months. If you go from the time that I filed until someone else filed, I was the only candidate for 10 or so months. And so what changed was Leon decided he didn't want to run again. And when he made that decision, then people looked at it as an open seat. And so it's easier to, run against a woman, run against, all of these things in the mind of someone who's just looking for the position than it
Sure.
is to run against the incumbent. And so I wish Leon had just waited. Like, dude, just wait till like December, But
Right, right.
he's not making the decisions that I would want him to make. He's making the decisions that he feels is best for his political
Sure.
career.
So how many other people have jumped in the race for District 7 now?
Four. So all guys. Um, None of them originally from the
Four.
district. Four.
Okay. Okay. So they don't even know anything about District 7.
Well, one of them lives down the street from me, so he's a neighbor, and I know he's lived in the community for a
Sure.
while. And so I won't say that. I won't say none of them know anything. What I will say is this: everybody has a different reason for why. We've been on campaign trails. We've heard each other speak. One of them went to Carver, so he's from the projects in East Baltimore, but he had an opportunity to go to Carver, so that's a tie in the community. One of them, again, like I said, lives down the street from me in Reservoir Hill. That's a tie in the community. Well, you all should live in the district, so I'm hoping we all live in the district. But one is a pastor in the community, so that's a tie to the community. And then this other young man is a environmentalist. And
Sure.
so I try to take the Michelle Obama rule. You know, as a woman, we often go high, right? So I'm not going to say, oh, they're
Right.
complete sleazeballs and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that. You can look people
Right.
up for your own self and get your own
Right.
measurement of character. What I will say is none of them are born or were raised in this district like I was. And so none of them, from what it looks like, has the roots and the connections and the ties that I
Sure.
have here. So leadership that comes from the place, to me, often has a greater connection with the constituents, the neighbors, the people. We understand the dynamic. I can walk up and down certain blocks in my community and tell you whose families have lived there, you know. And so that also means that when violence happens in my community, it's a lot more personal. When there are crises like now, it's because many of the grandparents and the seniors that we are building out these resources for, I went to school with their grandchildren. I'm still friends with their children. And so it's just a different level of commitment and customer service, in my opinion.
Sure. And plus, you got a head start over them. I mean,
Yeah.
look, you know, friends, but I've seen many live videos that you broadcasted in the community,
Mhm.
talking about trash in the alleys, talking about abandoned homes in the
Right.
nation shut down or getting them tore down,
Mhm.
dilapidated homes. So I mean, I don't know none of these other people you're talking about or seeing anybody
Right.
with any video saying that they're doing District 7 running other than you. So, I mean, I believe and feel that you're going to landslide this.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and so the difference between me and I feel like where others are coming from, this wasn't a girl who was bored, you know, working in the federal
Right.
government and said, let me decide to run for office. I had a very lucrative career. You know, I had the means to do a lot of different things for my family financially. I walked away from all of that because I heard God. I heard him very clearly. And at the time, I had lost 7 loved ones to gun violence.
How
And
many?
7 at the time.
Seven,
Unfortunately,
seven loved ones to gun violence.
7 loved ones to gun violence. And
Wow.
one of which was a cousin who was murdered in January of 2018, right at the corner of North and Pennsylvania. And so when you start
Wow.
to talk
Wait a minute.
about
North in Pennsylvania in front of the library and where the
on
CVS
the
is?
opposite side, yep, on the opposite side, on the side where the Arc Social Club is, but
Yeah.
more,
With the subway
but more
station.
on, yes, more on the North Avenue side. And so for
Mm.
those people who are watching and follow me, I made it to CNN this year on the second year anniversary of
You
my
made it
mom.
to CNN.
I made it to CNN. And
Oh
so
my
that's what happens
God.
when God endorses you. That's what happens. And so I want to take a second really quickly to also acknowledge my team. I'm just
Sure.
blessed by them. So I want to say thank you to everybody from the Friends of Tori Rose campaign team. I want to say thank you to Senator Barbara Robinson. I want to say thank you to Senator Shirley Nathan Pulliam and just
Yeah, I
Senator
know
Murray
Senator
Washington
Pulliam.
and just all of the women. I have women from across the country who have been in contact with me, just like, don't give up, don't stop, you know, continue to push. And so we don't realize we just are doing what God has called us to do. And then we don't realize that He's doing the rest. And so I was obedient by going to, you know, the corner and joining forces with the guys who are out there, because again, I don't believe that the drug dealing that we see in our community is by happenstance. And we talked about environment and we talked about what it looks like to actually be able to pour back positivity in your community. And they knew me. They knew me more than just being the slain person's relative, but they knew me as a community leader. And so I was being
Wow.
obedient. I did what God called me to do, and we made it to CNN. And so when I think about people who are jumping in the race just for a title, First of all, this is a thankless job. You have to love people and have an opportunity and a sense to be selfless for the sake of your brothers and sisters. This can't be about a title. My team
Right.
and I, we ain't slept since the crisis hit Baltimore, since it hit Maryland. We built out a resource and response team for the entire district. So that means at any given
Mm.
time, if 30,000 people decide they want to call this number, we are building something that we can be of an extension and support to what the city has already put in place. We're
Right.
filling the gap. You got to have a heart to do that because this work is
Absolutely.
behind the scenes. There's no camera crew and there's no pay for it. And we're not getting paid for it. We're doing what God has called us to do. That's the difference
That's
between
what you
me
got
and
to
the
do.
other four. Yeah. So I'm excited. June 2nd is the new election date. I'm excited. I'm excited either way, because and my cousin and I talked about this morning. We have never seen so many people step up and do community service. It's almost like we know for a fact there are people who are in competition with me, and that's an awesome thing because if you are competing with a community servant, someone who wakes up with service on her mind and heart, and you are competing with me,
Right.
but you're serving others in the process, it's a win-win. You're actually adding value in your service, even if it was sparked by competition. People are being enhanced by you serving. So let's get busy.
Hmm.
Let's serve.
Wow. Now let me ask you, Tori. So far, I know you probably considered an underdog, but what has been challenges running for city council for you? What's been the biggest challenge for you?
Oh, wow. So, yes, it's funny. I'm an underdog because of what they say, right? So, I'm an underdog because I'm a woman. I'm an underdog because I don't come from a political family. I'm an underdog because I haven't worked in a city for 12 or 15 years and all of this stuff as some of the other people have. But my community says I'm a winner. I'm the overdog. You know why? Because I can walk through the community and I can speak the language of each and every community, all 30 plus communities. So even though by the political playbook, I'm the underdog, by the real world that they forget exists, I already won. And so
Absolutely.
the greatest challenge, though, is when you represent a district that has extreme poverty. And so we have areas of extreme poverty. Um,
Hmm.
I can't turn to those communities and ask them for money. And so fundraising, being a first time person, even though people see how hard I work, the first thing I learned from a mentor was the best candidate doesn't always win. She said to me very strongly, she said, the best candidate will lose and the best campaign will win. She said, the best campaign is measured by whatever your city or your state or whatever the position is, measures a good campaign. Some people are so in the pocket with developers, they run a better campaign. They're doing all of the mailing, they're doing the robocalls, they got 140 people with their t-shirts on. All of these things, that's campaign. Yet I'm the better candidate. And so
Hmm.
if we could get, right now there is a campaign finance relief that the current council person in District 8, who is Christopher Burnett, is one of the pioneers. And what it's talking about is limiting the amount of finances someone can donate. Each individual donation cannot, let's say, surpass $250. And so that type of thing is what I would be pushing for because it's important to get grassroots, uncorrupted leadership at the table. And how do you do that? You do that by putting fail safes in place so that people are not tempted to be corrupt. And so I know for a fact some of the people who are running against me have received high dollar donations from builders, developers, liquor stores, people who are outside of our state. So
Mm.
when push comes to shove, who are they going to answer to? So for me, when the
Hmm.
push comes to shove, I'm answering to the grandmother who told me, baby, look, I don't even trust women politicians, but I like you. You spoke to my
Mm.
spirit. Here's my last $10. and I know you know I'm feeding these babies. So when you make it look out for me, she don't mean corruption. She mean food. She mean,
Oh,
can you finally
absolutely.
put a resource in place that can help me? So I would rather be owned by them than these big developers or the the business people or the out of state, I got a hookup
Hmm.
through a politician. I don't need that. And if that means that I have to not win this time, but I can set something on fire in my community, then it's not about a title. Because I'm gonna tell you again, I had a very lucrative position. And anybody who knows me from the federal government, they know I was Miss Pack a Bag, Catch a Flight, foreign cars. I am happily driving American and making the sacrifices that I need to make to show my district, to show my neighbors and my community that they can trust me because I'm already doing the work and they were worth the sacrifice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Tori, is the coronavirus, this crisis that's happening right now, is it making challenge?
My phone cut out a little bit. You say, is it making what?
Your campaigning a challenge, getting
Oh,
out and
yes, yes.
to the community like you normally do, knocking on doors and all
Yeah.
your other uh your work that you do for the community.
So that's two different things. So let me say this. I jokingly said to my team in September, I said, guys, it's hard of money. I get it, right? But let's just be faithful, be obedient, do the work. I said, God will make it snow in March to change the voting date if he has to. But he's gonna do whatever he has to do using the environment, and it's gonna bless us. So I made that statement in September. Again, we have been actively knocking doors since May. So if you count the months, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, we had 10 good months. We had no snow. We had a few cold days, a few hot days, but we've been out, boots on the ground doing the work. March 13th, March 13th was supposed to have been an off day for us for schools, teacher, professional development. The kids were off. On the 12th, we all get called in. Schools are shutting down. We don't know what's going on. They need all of the teachers to come in. We got grades. We got to finish all of that. I called my team and I said, God just shut schools down. Now I'm from here. I'm almost 40. I ain't never seen no schools closed in Baltimore City. And I said, he's about to do it. There's going to be a shift. Because again, not to be overly religious, but for those of us that deal with health issues and we deal with crime, you better know somebody higher than yourself. And so when this developed and we realized, wow, it's a pandemic, it's not even about the campaign anymore. It's all about community. And then they changed the election day. I looked at my team and I said, wow, we had 10 months, the only
Hmm.
consistent knocking doors in the alleys, helping the community, saving people's houses, connecting people to resources. We had 10 months. And I don't
Mm,
care how much my competitors mail don't vote. Mail doesn't vote. And
right.
so I'm not following a traditional playbook, a political playbook. I'm not. What I'm following is what I feel is a mandate, right? Because I'm going to tell you this. We had so many seniors in our district who could go hungry, who could not have their medicines. If I think about this like a candidate, people are going to die. I can't have that on my conscience. I can't even think that my focus was how do I campaign versus how do I help them? How do I connect the dots? Because I worked for the federal government when the Ebola crisis came out, and we had a leader in high places, meaning the White House, who actually was competent, who helped us flatten a curve and control a pandemic from happening then, where only 11 people died or 11 people. You can fact check that. I think 11 people had it and 2 people died in our entire country. We have more than 11 people a day catching the coronavirus in Baltimore. So to circle back to the
Mm,
question, campaigning, yeah, the campaign is over. We ain't worried about campaigning. You know why? Because we are worrying about being the connectors, the resources, and the leaders that we say we are. My entire campaign team is leaders. And so how can you have all of the leaders and all of the resources at the table and sit back in this time and say, how do I remind them to vote for me? If you do that, you are already showing our neighbors that you're not the one, because we don't need just another legislative face. We need someone who has a voice, the people's voice, at the table while legislative decisions are being made. And so we stopped campaigning on the 14th. We were done. We were like, oh, let's get into support mode. Like I said, I have a federal government background. You read that. I have over 7 years of emergency evacuation occupation,
Wow.
and human capital management training. We put that thing in place. We said, okay, what can we do? And we looked around, we benchmarked to see what other cities had done that had already been affected. If you look at New York, you can look at Ohio, you can look at, certain places that have already put certain things in place. And so Senator Mary Washington and the 43rd district, which touches parts of the 40th, when we talk about our legislative district, not councilmatic, they were building out a resource team. And I understand she's a senator, but she's a servant like I'm a servant. If they could build something, we could build something. Our district's needs are a little different. And I would only be looking at my councilmatic district, which would maybe take off 30 to 50,000 people. But I could build something and focus on 30 some communities. I could do that. And I couldn't do it alone. My team, again, shout out to them. I'm going to forever sing their kudos. And so having leaders at the table who are actually the people who they say they are. And I think 6 days, 7 days, we were able to build this thing out, test it. And now we have 12 leaders over the entire district that answers the 1877 number when our neighbors call. And this is seniors. These are people who are losing their jobs. These are moms and dads who have small children who need resources. And if you don't mind, I can give the number. Can I give the number?
Sure. Matter of fact, say it slow so I can make a banner and put it across the screen. Go ahead.
Okay. It's 877
877
70.
Wait a minute. 877 7
0 0
877 700
4792.
And what's this for? This is a resource number?
So we did a District 7. So it's anybody in 21211, 21217, 21216. If Leon Pinkett is your current councilperson, if you live near Mondawmin, Coppin, DCCC, Gilmore Homes, Hanlon or Hampton, Reservoir Hill, more than likely you're in my district. And so what we wanted to do was have one consistent umbrella of resources. That doesn't mean it negates any of the work that the individual communities have done. What it means is it's an opportunity for equity. And so we have some communities that are very, resourceful, and they can build their own volunteer list and things like that. And then you could drive on Gold in Pennsylvania and count 40 some people because they didn't know anything was happening.
So I got the number up there, 877 700 4792 for District 7 residents that live in 21217, and you said 21216.
Yeah, and we'll make sure if there's another way to tag it or give you the flyer, we'll get you the flyer. I didn't even think about providing it first, but I'll make sure you get the flyer, and can you share it later, or should I try to send it to you now?
All right, the flyer.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely share it later. I would have to go to my email, or if you got the flyer, you can put it up on the screen.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I see people saying, "Oh, what's in my screen?" Let me see. Yeah. Okay. How about this, Kiana? If you're watching, can you share the flyer? Let's see. Kiana, she's been coding and posting things. I see that.
Yeah, I've seen that. Well, while we wait for
the smartphone, and so the phone shows how smart the user actually is.
Right. Now, Tori, let me ask you this. What challenges, because you said District 7, maybe half is on doing well and the other half is not doing well. Yeah. So for the half that's not doing well, what challenges are they facing with this COVID-19 pandemic? Because I know in 21216, that Howard, I mean that is it Howard Park or
Mhm.
Sandstown area?
Well,
I know there's no
District
grocery.
17. Howard Park is a different district. I mean, different community.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm sorry, not Howard Park, but Sandstown. I know there's no grocery stores in that, kind of in close proximity.
Yeah.
Uh, how are the residents in that community getting fresh food and just food like toilet paper and all this other stuff that's constantly running out?
So two things. The first thing is understanding that many of our neighbors, and this is just again when we talk about like poverty, right, and how poverty affects our communities, and so certain communities didn't even understand the brevity and the seriousness of the situation. But if you live in a community, if you live in a neighborhood, thank you, Kiana, that does not have a supermarket, you live there Monday through Friday on an average day, you figure out a way to eat, you figure out a way to get to the market, you have somebody drive you, you catch the bus, whatever. And so by the time we realized, like, wow, we need to explain, especially in communities of color, Black and Brown communities, where we know people were still not social distancing and all of that. We need to communicate the seriousness of this. We found that most of our communities had gone to the market, however they got there. So if they got a ride, if they did a ride share, if they bused, if they went to Pennsylvania Avenue Market, if they went to Mondawmin, we don't know. But we pulled up with food the very first week. They had food. And so we understood that we have to stop assuming for people what they need and ask them what they need, because this is the living condition where you're talking about communities where the supermarkets are to supermarkets to alcohol stores or liquor store ratio is 16 to 1.
Mm,
And so they figure out how to eat. You know, we're people, right? We're not trees, so we're not planted. And so some of the
mm-hmm.
community leaders right now who want me to be like, I'm the one that's going to bring the market. I can bring a market without yelling and screaming. I can't understand how the market is not already here. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just talking about the fact that I'm not a very emotional person in that way. Passionate, not emotional. And so, what does that mean? That means that I have connections with Trader Joe's now, I have connections with Wegmans now. I am asking the questions to figure out why we can't just get a market. To me, it seems like in some of these communities, the politics have deadlocked. And because this person wants to be the
Mm-hmm.
person to get the market, and this person wants to be able to say they helped them get the market, there's no market. However, I want to give a shout out to people like Farmer Now, Umar from Umar's Boxing, Bubby Lucky from Sandtown, Marlo and the Face Organization, and Archie and Michael, and all of those great guys, all of the community partners, the Maryland Food Bank. We had a organization of, and I'm sorry, their name escapes me. Queer lunches, I think it was. On day 2, gave us over 20 packs bags with food in it. It was survival kits, and so I
Mm-hmm.
give a shout out to those people that I mentioned because they are boots on the ground providing food to this community. But I went left because I need you to understand it's not happenstance or by accident that there's no market in the community. It's also not by accident or happenstance that the market at Mondawmin is about to go. Like they're talking about getting rid of the shoppers. And so
Oh
again,
my
I'm asking,
God.
right. So what is the community supposed to do? And so let's go back. Remember one of the first things we talked about was my history knowledge. I have studied the arts of war. And so we got to understand that this thing is systemic, it's systematic, it's purposed in a way that you start to divide and conquer people, you pull back their resources, you move away food, understanding that, and I'm not saying that the government has waged a war on Sandtown, Winchester. That's
Sure.
not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if we don't get to the core and the root of what is happening, redevelopment, gentrification, and some of these other things that are purposed to separate people, people are going to move closer to the food. So I went there because I
Absolutely.
need to say that, and I need people to understand that you have to be mindful about what's happening. We could have a supermarket. If you remember, Canton didn't have a supermarket, what, 5 years ago? They have three
Okay.
now. They have
Wow.
three. And so it it takes someone who has the ability to organize, but it also takes someone who has the ability to go from a beginning to an end. And it takes somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's willing to stay in a position longer than 4 years. So when I'm elected, I'm not looking to leapfrog through my community. If my community would have me back a second term, I would come back a second term so that we could actually, measure out what we've implemented and complete the things we've started.
Sure. Now I have that poster. Let's talk about this.
Mhm,
So this is the District 7 COVID-19 Resource and Response Team,
mhm.
initiated by community leader Tori Rose. Now, this only is available to District 7 residents.
Of course, we're not going to turn somebody away who needs resources. What we would hope people are sensitive and understanding that if we're all supposed to be quarantined, if we're all supposed to be in the house, if we're not really supposed to be out unless it's essential things and things like that, and we're trying to step up to help our neighbors, it makes more sense for us to get a neighbor from East Baltimore connected to an East Baltimore resource. Does that make a little sense? Like it makes
Oh, absolutely.
right
Absolutely.
for someone that's 5 miles from you versus 45 miles from you. And so we hope to be able to service predominantly our neighbors. So District 7, again, from Hanlon to Hampton, Reservoir Hills, Saintown, Winchester, North and Penn, um, Rosedale, Rosemont, all of those neighborhoods, right? But if someone else calls the number, we're going to do all we can to help them. So
Mm-hmm.
far, it went live on Friday morning, and we got a request within like an hour or so of it going live. And so there's a
So how
need
many
in
people
this community. Have reached out so
have?
far
Yeah.
in 2 days.
Yes.
I want to say between 7 and 10 in 2 days.
Okay. That's awesome.
And so, and of course, reaching out, like we know we've had one or two who have been from other parts outside of the seventh district. And again, we're going to help them, but we want to not overstep. It's not about Tory Roses coming in to Bogart. It's how do we leverage the power and people. And so I live in Reservoir Hill. I know the Reservoir Hill, Bolton Hill, and Madison group came together. We have over 137 volunteers in that resource team because they are
Wow.
able to pull it together, right? If someone called the overarching District 7 number and they needed something and they were on Linden Avenue, we would ask Reservoir Hill to handle whatever the needs are because they have the manpower to do so. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Matthew A. Henson is represented. So the Easterwood community is represented in our on our task force. We have, like I said, a command center, and we were able to build it all virtual. And so Matthew A. Henson, we have, like I said, the Sandtown, Winchester area. We have Hanlon, Hampton, Hilton, Rosemont. I mean, just communities that normally don't get a voice at the table are at the table assisting and answering calls and helping us be the best neighbors we can be.
Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't touch on chronic health, but is that a big issue in District 7?
Oh my
Health
gosh.
issues?
Health issues. And I know we've talked about some. So this is how I feel. A few months ago, and I know everybody's happy with Governor Hogan's response to COVID. And I'm grateful that he's being a leader in this instance. But a couple of months ago, I was very upset because he was suing EPA. So the Environmental Protection Agency, our governor said, hey, you had a responsibility to help us on a state level keep our Chesapeake Bay safe and clean. And you did not. And so we are suing you. And it made me want to sue him. And so I started calling to my environmental partners and saying, well, wait a minute. We have some of the highest numbers of asthma. We have some of the highest numbers of kidney failure. We have some of the highest numbers of hypertension and high blood pressure. And not that the water is not important, but many of us don't have fresh water coming through our own homes. Our schools don't have fresh water. Our children drink from the Deer Park water that has been, donated through that temporary fix as we, enhance our school system. But it's environmental. We have people who are walking around eating chicken boxes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How's that not environmental? Again, we need supermarkets. That's environmental. Every woman who was born in my family from the 70s, almost every single woman, if I take 4 out of 5 of us that was born from 1970 till today, has asthma or some type of bronchial condition. Why? In my family, almost all of us have dealt with some type of kidney stone, kidney issue, kidney failure. Thank you again, because you helped save my godson, who was also my cousin. And so, yeah, we need help and we need advocation at a federal level. And so I'm looking to build a minority-based environmental protection agency or environmental accountability committee, let's put it that way, that can check EPA and say, wait a minute, how is this not a environmental injustice? How is this not environmental racism that you can have a market, only one market for an entire subset of people? Almost 16 different communities have to go to the one market. How's that possible?
That's crazy.
We don't have free transportation, and so even people like the No Boundaries Coalition, they do a great job at the Penn Market right there, Pennsylvania Avenue Market. We have on Wednesdays at Drew Hill Park, organizations that come out and they do the farmers market, and you can use your EBT or your WIC. So we have partners. We have the White Lock Farm. We again have City Weeds with Farmer Now. We have the Food Project. We have so many organizations who have said, if they don't build it for us, we're going to build it. But we need representation and accountability from federal and state as to why our seniors have a 33% greater chance of having hypertension than seniors in Charles Village. Why is that? And so when you look at the numbers of people who die in my community from hypertension, sugar diabetes, kidney failure that goes undiagnosed, heart disease, and the heart disease normally comes from these other things being diseased. I had someone look at even the women that I didn't even know this was going on and was a thing, but Black women who are dying from my district in childbirth. And so we need immediate solutions, and we need someone who is going to ask the question each and every time, each and every bill, each and every policy, each and every piece of legislation. How does this help my community? As if someone just had the awareness to ask the question. You're at a hearing and the hearing is for e-cigarettes. How does this help my community? How do we measure it? What will happen in 5 years? Ask those 3 questions each and every time. How does this help my community? You start there. You'll be able to delegate and create policies and laws that actually benefit the people, that have long-lasting residual positive benefits on the quality of life.
One question I wanted to ask, I know we're kind of getting down to the time, but one question I wanted to ask, if you know, does the city council have any oversight on policies concerning the homeless population? Because reason why I asked that, I've been seeing a lot of videos, and I'm friends with Christine Flowers, and she's concerned on what the city is doing, these homelessness camps that are throughout Baltimore and this COVID-19. Now, I know some of that probably largely rest on the mayor. I'm not really good on the politics, but does the city council have any type of oversight with the homeless population and making sure that these guys are getting the correct help that they need?
Honestly, no. And a part of it, I love Christina to life, Christina Flowers, and I'm going to partner with her because I was homeless from 16 to 18. And so I understand what it is to have housing insecurity. I understand what it is to have even be a child who, it risk is on a teeter of being homeless and having to live in the street. What I will say is this: City council does not govern the policies for the homeless. No. The mayor has an office that is supposed to be committed to making sure that our homeless population has the resources and support that they need. Again, when we talk about accountability, oversight in itself comes along with accountability. I don't know if they are audited. I don't know how things are measured. I know from being a homeless person, there's no tracking, right? And so again, if God hadn't shifted my path, I literally would have lived in the street from 16 to 18. Luckily, I
Mm,
was able to couch surf. I slept on, floors at friends' houses and things like that. And by the time I was
sure.
17, 9 months, I had a family who took me in, but I was relatively off the grid. If I had stopped going to school, they wouldn't have known where I was, right? So now
Wow.
think about the fact that we have no real way of like documenting, truly understanding who is amongst our homeless population. And so this is where now city council can come in and say, we demand oversight. We want an audit. We want to pass, a review. I definitely am for participatory budgeting that gets to say that the community and the people have a say as to where some of the budget allocation goes. Again,
Mm-hmm.
our federal government had I benchmark, I look and see what happens in other cities. In other cities, and you take Los Angeles, they have like a board, almost like a board of managers that is a little different from the city council. And these people help maintain the participatory budgets for all of the subsidiary organizations and homeless, aging, all of those different organizations. And so, what I would like to see is a city council person like myself who comes in and says, well, let's get an audit. Let's do some research. Let's bring the homeless people in who feel comfortable with interacting with us. And let's help model what healthy living looks like. Let's get them health care. Let's get them housing. Let's get them job opportunities. Let's get them training. And then let's see if we can build a partnership with the nonprofit organizations. Because again, in our state, 200 nonprofits are built a month. And I say built because there are people who, in this COVID crisis, are sitting back trying to figure out, how can I rebound from this? How can I get me some money? They're going to build a 501c3. They're not then going to use that 501c3 to add any value to the community. They're going to have it for 3, 4, 5 years before they even go through the board pipeline program. They're going to figure out a way to use that to leverage what they're trying to do, but they're not going to build enough capital to be able to actually turn around and help the population in which they say they are supposed to serve. And so having a charter, having a bill, having a mandate that the mayor's office for the homeless, along with nonprofits, along with state and federal funding, help us create then a training facility, a life hub, and an opportunity to walk along with these homeless individuals for 4 to 5 years. Let's call it a success plan. Let's
Mm-hmm.
call it a
Mm-hmm.
plan to rise. Rise with Rose stands for restore, invest, support, and educate. It's measurable and it's something that's implementable in any facet. You talk about housing, I could say, oh, let's talk about the rise plan. You talk about education, let's talk about the rise plan. Because the way my
Mm.
brain works is we have to put things in place that are implementable and that are measurable and that we don't have to keep rebuilding, but say, well, where did this fall apart, and strengthen it in this areas of weakness versus every time we get a new leader we hit the reset button and start over each time.
Mm-hmm. That's what it seemed like that happens every time you get a new leader.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost looked like that with the mayor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's no succession
So,
management.
huh?
There's no succession management. There's no succession plan.
Mm-hmm. So, Tori, as we come down to the end of the show, what do you want people of Baltimore City to know about Tori Rose, community leader?
So I'm really approachable. Like I don't know what's happening lately because I'm running for city council. People are like, "Is that her? That's her," and they don't want to bother me. No, bother me. Like, I mean, of course, respectfully, right? Because I heard somebody say, "No, don't say that." No, but seriously, like we're all human. We're all people. I'm a mom, and so of course, if you see me in an intimate moment with my son, that might not be the time to say, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" But what's happening now is people are not approaching me at all. They're staying very distant. I am not an elitist. We got to get away from the policymakers and these politicians who think they're above their neighbors. I'm literally the girl from down the street. And so if there's something that you could tell me that could help bring, perspective or value to this mission and this movement, by all means, say hi, come on up and take a picture. Well, once we're done, social distancing. Secondly, if you can help with the campaign, once we're done social distancing, we will need all the help we can get because we don't know what a mail-in ballot is going to look like. If you're able to help with any of those things, making the campaign calls and helping with voter education, look us up at votetoryrose.com. You can check me out at Friends of Tori Rose on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to help with the COVID response team, again, the number is 877-700-4792. You can follow me on Facebook. You'll see it. We're on Facebook at Baltimore's 7th District COVID response team. And listen, guys, we are so much stronger together. I am going to say that until I'm blue in the face. All of the dissension and divisiveness, we have to put that apart. And we got to look and say, how do we rally behind those people who are making the difference? We put our egos and our pride aside. And how do we rock out and get this done for our communities? So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Any shout outs?
I want to thank God. I want to thank my mama. No, I do. I want to just say thank you, God, because too frequently I've been called a religious person and over religious. And I'm like, thank you. It's like being called bougie. It's a compliment. Again, I'm a young girl from West Baltimore that was abused as a child, that was homeless from 16 to 18, that was assaulted as an adult. And I'm still ticking and I'm still out here fighting for my people. And so thank you, God. I want to thank my team again. Thank you to everybody, the friends of Tori Rose, and to every community partner. Again, we are stronger together. Steve, I thank you because again, you saved my son, my baby. He my old baby, my oldest baby son, my godson Kobe, who is healthy. He's 100% recovered, and he is in California living La Vida Loca. Just thank you for this platform. Thank you for being a voice. Thank you for educating us on a condition that is silently, robbing and stealing people from life, and we don't even know, we don't even understand the importance of not, oh, I got a pain, let me drink some cranberry juice, but actually
Right.
having health, and your health is your wealth. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Oh,
you.
absolutely. Thank you. And I'm going to show this one more time. The district COVID-19 resource and response team number. Here's the flyer. If you live in District 7 or teeter the line, or I mean, if you just need help in Baltimore, I mean, it's
Oh
for
my God.
District 7, but they're not going to turn anyone away.
Hey, I'm sorry to
Yes,
interrupt. There was
sure.
like really extreme gunshots. Yeah, let me make some calls. I want to make sure
Okay.
my numbers are okay.
I
All
thought I
right.
heard that. I heard
Yeah.
that.
So
So,
no worries. Let me
okay.
go. I'll text you later and let you know that everything's okay, or if
All right,
everything's
Tori, thank you for coming on.
no
God
worries.
bless you and stay safe.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. So, guys, I mean, you heard it. You heard the gunshots. I mean, I heard 2 gunshots in the background. Um, so this is how serious this is. And I didn't even get a chance to finish some questions, but I know I will have her back again one day. I hope everybody's safe in that community. I'd like to thank Tori Rose, Kiana. Um, Let me see Kiana's last name because I don't want to get it wrong. Kiana B. Jones, Barbara Robinson, Crystal Parker, Sabrina Allison. Um, all these are um, Tori Rose supporters or work with her team, I'd like to thank them for posting the different information that they have been doing throughout this broadcast. How you doing, Courtney? Thanks for joining. I'm actually about to close up the show, but again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We know that you could be watching Netflix or anything else, but you chose to take an hour out of your time to watch World Kidney News. So I thank you so much, Urban Health Outreach Media. Thank you. And if you ever need any kidney disease information, please go to our YouTube site. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Urban Health Outreach Media. We definitely need your support. Share this broadcast. Again, if you'd like to support Tori Rose, let me put that information up one more time. You could donate to her campaign at donate at bit.ly/Tori Rose 2020. If you have family that lives in District 7 and they may need help with the response team, here go that number right there. Or if you just like to see what Tori's up to, you can go to her website at www.votetoryrose.com. Again, I'd like to thank Tori Rose and her team for coming on and supplying the info. Again, for watching the show. God bless you. Stay safe. And please look out for someone else, okay? Neighbor or someone who doesn't have significant other or any relatives. Please check on our senior folks as well. Again, thank you for watching World Kidney News with Steve L. Belcher. God bless you and have a good night. Peace.